This week's episode of the ArtTactic podcast is brought to you by Hangman Fine Art Services. As an art advisor, my role goes beyond helping clients acquire artworks for their collections. It's also about ensuring those artworks make it safely from the gallery to their homes. Art shipping can be a nerve-wracking process. Things can go wrong, and it's crucial to prevent these issues from occurring. Also, over the years, I found that shipping quotes can vary significantly. One shipper might quote thousands more than another for the exact same service. A few years ago, I discovered Hangman. Whenever I requested shipping quotes from various fine art shippers, Hangman almost always provided the most competitive prices. But it's not just about the cost. Hangman offers reliable, professional service and maintains excellent communication throughout the process. They guide me on how to pack specific works and keep me updated on the shipment status until it's safely delivered to my clients. Now, Hangman is my go-to art shipper. Their combination of affordability, reliability, and excellent customer service is unmatched. If you're not already a regular customer, I genuinely recommend giving them a try. I'm thrilled to have Hangman as a sponsor of the ArtTactic podcast. To learn more about Hangman, visit www.hangmannyc.com. And you can also find them on Instagram at HangmanFineArts. Thanks for listening to the ArtTactic podcast. I'm your host, Adam Green. One interesting phenomenon I've noticed over the last few years is the rise in prominence of regional art museums. And by that I mean art museums located outside of the geographic art centers of the world. Through the use of bold curation and effective marketing, it seems there's the potential for museums located somewhat off the grid to garner more attention from the contemporary art world than ever before. We wanted to explore this further on this week's episode of the podcast, as we're joined by Daniel Palmer, Chief Curator of the SCAD Museum of Art. SCAD stands for the Savannah College of Art and Design. Daniel has done an incredible job the past few years increasing awareness of the SCAD Museum of Art, and he's kind enough to join us to chat further about his experiences there. We hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks so much for listening. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks so much, Adam, for having me. Really looking forward to this conversation.
Absolutely. I am as well. It's been really fun watching all the success you've had at SCAD, and I'm excited to chat further about it. I think a great place to start is if you can share a little bit more about SCAD in case some of our listeners aren't familiar with it, and your journey there. And also, how has your experience differed from what you may have initially expected?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I'm originally from the North. I was raised in Connecticut, born in New Jersey, went to school in New Jersey, and then lived in New York City for about 15 years or so. And it's really, I moved down here for the job. I've been here just over 2 years now, and it's because of the museum. When SCAD Museum of Art said they were looking for a new chief curator, I was thrilled. I'd seen the exhibitions that they had put on. Funny enough, I actually came down here to present a paper at an art history conference while I was doing my doctorate, and got to see the first exhibitions that the museum put on. And that was, that's to say also that the museum is a relatively young museum. The SCAD Museum of Art here in Savannah, Georgia is part of a great, really dynamic university. SCAD stands for the Savannah College of Art and Design. And the museum really was conceived to be a premier contemporary art teaching museum. So the idea is to really feature the best artists from all around the world, whether they're emerging artists or established international artists, lots of newly commissioned works, rotating exhibitions. And the idea is to engage local communities, visitors from all around the world, but especially to serve as a resource for SCAD students and alumni. And it's just been really a really exciting 2 years. There's lots of dynamism. There's lots of ambition and interest in the kinds of things that I've been really so excited to do here. And especially the real cornerstone of that is bringing all these wonderful, really brilliant artists from all around the world and putting together these really important exhibitions with them.
Yeah, it's been really exciting following your programming, in some cases giving artists their first solo museum exhibition, while other times showing more established artists. I'm wondering, what do you see as the curatorial strategy for a museum like SCAD, given its size and location? And as you're determining that strategy, do you think about how the museum can make an impact both locally and nationally in the contemporary art world?
Absolutely. I mean, we're a relatively small museum when it comes to, big New York City institutions like MoMA or the Whitney or things like that, but I think small but mighty, I guess is how I'd put it. And with a real sense of place and character. The museum's building is a renovated warehouse structure that used to be a railroad structure from the 1850s. But, at the core of the ethos of the university is historic preservation and adaptive reuse. So we have these beautiful galleries that have, character and history, but there's a lot of gallery spaces. And that really gets to your question, to response to your question is, the curatorial strategy is partly to do a lot of really special shows, a lot of shows. I mean, we do 2 seasons a year, and each season it's 9 to 10 exhibitions. So tons of space, a great team. I'm working with, managing other wonderful curators here. And the program that we put together can be, and really, I think we have an interest in, a mandate in a way of being a very global program, showing lots of diversity from artists all around the world and showing a lot of media diversity too, partly to speak to the various majors and all of our different student populations in that sense. But to the other part of your question, I think that you're getting at there, the art world is a really kind of fascinating place that is, and I really lived it a long time, is very New York centric, or New York and LA centric, maybe, especially in the States. And that's great. And that's, it's wonderful. And I still am back in New York very often. But at the same time, I think the dialogue between, let's say, center and periphery, or different centers, maybe is a better way to view it, really can allow artists to do things outside of the commercial centers, right? So an artist doing an exhibition in a gallery show, a lot of times has to think about the saleability of the work, the viability of their work in a commercial context. And the beauty about the kind of things that we can do here at the museum, is we can cook up, we can kind of dream up things that can kind of work outside of that box, and can allow artists to do things that are not initially or not primarily commercially focused. And there's a lot of really beautiful kind of dreaming and creativity and, really dynamic installations that have happened here as a result.
Yeah, and it would be great actually if you could share a few exhibition highlights of shows that you've curated over the last few years while you've been at SCAD.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, some of the highlights, big show that I was really honored to do with Chase Hall, his first solo museum exhibition, which also actually articulates a part of another aspect of what we can do here, which is really kind of take a little bit of a chance on, doing an artist's first solo museum show. And, we've seen, I mean, Chase is incredible, and, he's destined for great things. And, I have no doubt we'll be, doing a big show, whether it's at the Whitney or MoMA at some point in the near future. Then in terms of other highlights and same level of confidence for each of these artists and where they're going. Did a big exhibition recently with Anne Craven that was all of her moons from the year before we did the show. And that was, one of her biggest exhibitions to date. Anna Park's first solo museum exhibition. Really great show with Tyler Mitchell. That was his first solo museum show in his home state of Georgia. And it was, the most ambitious thing he's done to date. A big exhibition with Yu Hong, an incredible painter from China who works in Beijing. And this was her first museum show in the United States. We have up great shows right now with Ewal Arizku, Holly Hendry, Ivan Argote. I mean, there's just lots of great stuff that we've been so excited to do. And that's just really in the last few years. I mean, if you look back at the museum's history, since 2011. I mean, it's just greatest hits after greatest hits. And I think a part of that is that the university has always worked with really brilliant, incredible curators and given them, a lot of leeway, a lot of support to do important exhibitions, and that really, has I think helped to burnish the reputation of not only the museum but of the institution, and made people pay attention around the world.
And social media, and particularly Instagram, has had a significant impact on the art world in a variety of ways. How do you think social media has enhanced SCAD's efforts to raise awareness about your museum's activities and exhibitions, and ultimately being able to extend your reach beyond the local community?
Yeah, we've got an incredible teams, I should say, here at SCAD, and working with us at the museum, running the social media accounts, doing all of the great PR and branding and marketing. And I think SCAD has always been really savvy and has encouraged students to be really savvy as well when it comes to branding and marketing and professional development and social media, as just part of the landscape that we live in, and an important way that artists can share the really important things that they're doing. It's kind of partly this whole tree falling in the woods dynamic, and if you don't share it with others, did it even happen? Now, I mean, I think I want to make sure that I'm kind of putting in a little, sort of, I don't know, a plea there to actually experiencing art, in person. But I think the social media dynamic that you're just describing, is really a way that the exhibitions that we do, outside of the kind of major art world capitals, can have an outsized reach. And I think a big part of that is thanks to the teams I was just describing and my colleagues here, but also thanks to a lot of the artists, a lot of the kind of rising star artists, or artists who have a lot of interest and attention, on them. They're really excited about doing exhibitions here, and they're really excited to share them. And I love sharing, more about the shows we do here. And that's, an important way to get people to see what these artists are doing here. And ultimately it's about the exhibitions themselves, and it's an invitation for audiences and visitors to come here and to see these exhibitions. Or if they can't make it down here, and I understand that, that often is the case, that they can then check out these artists' work. They can see the level of, of ambition and brilliance that the artists have brought to the exhibitions here, and they can check them out when they have a gallery show in their neck of the woods.
So as a curator, and one in particular who has roots in New York, I know you're often engaged in dialogue with artists. These could be artists that you're planning exhibitions with, or just artists that you're following. I'm curious, do you have a sense if artists are more eager now than perhaps ever to exhibit their work outside some of the major art hubs? That's at least my experience from conversations I've had with artists, that they're very excited about the opportunity to showcase their work in locations where generally their work isn't exhibited as regularly.
Oh, totally. I mean, I think my whole philosophy as a curator really is about that dialogue that you were describing. I mean, I feel like I am so lucky to have conversations with artists constantly, and to work directly with artists. And I'm always finding them and their brilliance as a source of inspiration. And, my hope is that I can help in my dialogue with the artist, kind of help them either get a perspective on their work that, maybe allows them to kind of see what the audience will see, and especially can help provide entry points for audiences, and be, a mediator for the artist to help them share their genius, frankly, is the word for it, with the world. So, I think that the question of why artists are really eager to exhibit outside of major art world hubs, is partly goes back to what I was just saying about the art market. I think, the art market is important for what we all do. And I certainly, wouldn't be naive and say that it's, something that needs to be escaped or avoided or anything like that. But I think, when an artist is thinking about doing a museum show, and thinking about the slower, kind of longer term dialogue that can happen, in conversation with a curator about their practice. It's not just about the saleability of objects. It's about the bigger picture, and it's about, like, a lot of times for younger artists where it's a first solo museum show, or it's a show that's kind of more of a survey and looking at a distinct body of work, or that's a retrospective type of looking show. We can really dive in and really reflect on things over the course of a year, 2 years, a longer time period, and that's an important thing for artists to do in addition to the commercial, gallery shows and art fairs and other things like that. And then I'll also say, we can't underestimate the importance of the teaching museum facet of the SCAD Museum of Art. So many artists, when they come down here, and I'm very lucky to get to host artists, to come to town, to have initial research conversations about doing shows here, to see the museum space, to get to know the area and the region. They are so inspired by the students, and also by, being in and thinking about exhibiting in a place that is, outside of New York City or Los Angeles or the art world, proper in that sense. The audiences down here and the audiences that come to visit Savannah they're really engaged, and they're really hungry to see and to experience, what these artists have to offer. And I think it's an important, not to get into like a much bigger kind of social conversation in a way, but I think it's really important that we are having conversations and are engaging with not just even audiences, but frankly with people and cultures and histories, that are outside of those that we have maybe traditionally kind of taken to be our own. And that's partly also to say, like, I had really no roots or connections in the South before moving down here. And it's just been revelatory, and I feel like I'm learning so much. I'm constantly feel like I'm researching, learning, and hopefully understanding more about the audiences that we're creating these exhibitions for in a lot of ways down here at the SCAD Museum of Art.
And lastly, I know you have a lot of exciting exhibitions on view at SCAD, and you have some upcoming exhibitions and projects that maybe they're announced, maybe they aren't announced, that I'm sure are quite exciting. But if you can share a little bit about what you have at the museum now and upcoming, that would be great.
Yeah, of course. I can always tease out a little bit of, upcoming things for you and your listener. I'm always excited to share and to, kind of cook things up together. So, right now we have a really great group of exhibitions on view. Like I was saying, we have Ewald Erizku's first solo museum exhibition, and it's truly an important show, not just for him, but I think, for the region and for this moment. And one little facet of that's really important to say. So his show is based on the legacy of Malcolm X. And there's a lot of newly commissioned works for the exhibition. And the fascinating thing that sort of is kind of the starting point of his show is actually a letter written by Malcolm X himself from 1864 while he was making his pilgrimage to Mecca. It's a really important letter, that is just fascinating as a starting point for Ewald's response and exploration of Malcolm X and about basically Black history in America as well, and Ewald's own Islamic faith. It's a really powerful show that has just been very important for a lot of different communities here. And then we have also on view right now, we have incredible exhibitions by Ivan Argote, who's, as you know, a real star of the Venice Biennale right now. And this is just a massive installation that he did here at the museum. That's just a total knockout. We have a big sort of two-part exhibition exhibition with Sal Fei. That is just a really important show, really great, big, dynamic installation. And just, she's so thoughtful. It was really special to work, with her and to have her here. This is I think, one of the big moments that she's had in the States since for the first time since her MoMA PS1 show. So that was really incredible. And then great shows with Cami Staros, Cindy Ji Hai Kim, Holly Hendry, all on view right now. And those are up for, a little while longer, depending on when this makes its way up online, but mostly to the summer. And then those shows will start to close. And we're gearing up for our upcoming September season, where we're going to have a big show that we're doing in partnership with Dia of Dan Flavin's artworks. That's going to be a really, really special show. And then an incredible and a really special project with George Clinton, who's mostly known as the funk musician, the innovator, Parliament Funkadelic. He's been making drawings and paintings for a long time, and the show is really very, much an articulation of just how radical and experimental his approach to creativity is, let's say, across the board. But those paintings are going to be really special, and we have a group of contemporary artists who are influenced by him who are going to be in the show too. So there's going to be a lot of really great work in that show, as well as in that season, we also are going to have a big show with Anthony Akimbola, a bunch of other really great, artworks, a bunch of other great exhibitions in that season. And then upcoming a little bit further out, just to kind of tease some names. Show with Sarah Crowner, Christina Quarles, Diedrich Brackens, Raul Delora, like lots of really exciting things. Hopefully keeping up to that, level of expectation of what people have been seeing us doing in recent years. And all of the artists are so excited to be here at the SCAD Museum of Art doing these really, exciting, ambitious, important shows for our students, for our community, and for all the people who come to visit Savannah, truly from all around the world. I have to say, it's a great place, especially when it starts to get a little cold in New York City. Come down. It's a great place for a long weekend. There's some really incredible hotels here in Savannah, lots of new boutique hotels that are doing great things. And I gotta say, the food is just out of this world. The restaurants are truly, I'll almost say dangerous. I've had to take up running while I've been down here too, as a result, I would say.
Well, I definitely need to make it down there. Daniel, thanks so much again for coming on the podcast and sharing some of your experiences thus far at SCAD. It's really interesting and exciting, all of the projects you've worked on there thus far. We're definitely following along and will continue to do so. And if our listeners want to learn more about the museum, what's the website they can visit?
Yeah, so our website is scadmoa, that's MOA, .org. And also you can find us on social media, and find me on social media as well. I'm D.Palmer. And I really appreciate it, Adam. Looking forward to collaborating more with you and your listeners, and come on down. Looking forward to hosting y'all in Savannah soon at the SCAD Museum of Art. And I say y'all now. I think my ancestors would be quite amused.
I love it. Thanks again, Daniel. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam.
This week's episode of the ArtTactic podcast is brought to you by Hangman Fine Art Services. As an art advisor, my role goes beyond helping clients acquire artworks for their collections. It's also about ensuring those artworks make it safely from the gallery to their homes. Art shipping can be a nerve-wracking process. Things can go wrong, and it's crucial to prevent these issues from occurring. Also, over the years, I found that shipping quotes can vary significantly. One shipper might quote thousands more than another for the exact same service. A few years ago, I discovered Hangman. Whenever I requested shipping quotes from various fine art shippers, Hangman almost always provided the most competitive prices. But it's not just about the cost. Hangman offers reliable, professional service and maintains excellent communication throughout the process. They guide me on how to pack specific works and keep me updated on the shipment status until it's safely delivered to my clients. Now, Hangman is my go-to art shipper. Their combination of affordability, reliability, and excellent customer service is unmatched. If you're not already a regular customer, I genuinely recommend giving them a try. I'm thrilled to have Hangman as a sponsor of the ArtTactic podcast. To learn more about Hangman, visit www.hangmannyc.com, and you can also find them on Instagram at HangmanFineArts.